1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And hello, fellows. Herogon here. Today is Thursday, January 19th of 2023. Still a new year, and no doubt I've been dealing with a lot. I am now currently doing some college schoolwork as of recently. I've been doing pretty okay in intermediate algebra. American history, I'm still trying to do. I don't know if I should really consider it the favorite amongst the two classes I'm taking, but it's definitely something I'm gonna have to do as prerequisite. That out of the way, things have been a little bit nuts over this past week and even into this Wednesday and Thursday, as I feel like my own head's gone nuts sometimes. I don't know what to even do with it. I definitely should consider a bit of, I don't know, getting myself checked out, maybe? I think I'm good. With that out of the way, let's get into the most recent Shawnthebro tutorial I've done, which involves input control mapping. A bit of improved custom input mapping stuff. Now, the biggest part of the stuff here is in Xcode. We've changed at least one part of the .build.cs file, which I have never even touched before up to this point. And we've just added this UMG part. Be sure to have quotations if anyone just so happens to be watching Shawnthebro's tutorials and might want to try themselves too. Now, the biggest C++ changes are with widget navigation interface and the base player controller as well. In widget navigation, we've got a new function, any key. And in base player controller, we've added the widget components part for here. Going through, we've got something called uWidget, current widget, which is important. Determine input device details is there as well. I think we've had that for a while. And in base player controller, the big thing around we've got is any key. And going further down here, let's see. Perform start input logic. No. Determine device input device details. If the current widget is valid, then we go here. If current widget get class, then implements interface. It's a static class, and we use something called iWidget navigation interface execute any key. In this case, this will execute our any key logic, or rather the particular settings for the any key input. Going into the game itself, the blueprint parts, we have this control mapping pop-up, which will appear whenever we are on the change controls screen. Still got a lot to change for this, but here it is so far for controls. And in both graphs, we have a few things around. In event construct, we set our controller reference and our current widget. And we have our widget navigation interface implemented into here via class settings. We add into the inherited interfaces for those that are playing on Unreal Engine 5.1. Those are making use of that. Then if is initial input is true, we set that to false, and if it's false, we go into set selected key, which will be our currently selected key. And that pretty much sets, then we go into a for loop with break. If the branch for this array of owner widget and bindings equals the currently selected key, if that's true, then we set the array element. Then once we've completed all that, we set our current widget to none, our target controller reference, then remove from parent. Now the last index part involves the last index that we want to use. In this case, we want the length of our array right here for all our bindings and -1. Then of course, in the options, change controls screen, we've got a listen for input action, confirm selection. Now we determine our widget to focus, and for loop with break, there is a bit of other logic that Shawn actually has. So let's give us a moment to show off what goes around for this. Shawn's is mostly basic, and so is mine. We've got both of us have our navigation around for this particular option settings. And of course, if we continue and press or confirm one of the chosen parts, then we change our whatever this particular stuff is binded to. Now do note that binding for this stuff is still a work in progress, so yeah. And of course that will go in. Then we go a little further into the video for Shawn, and one difference that he has compared to my confirm selection involves a true state, a branch statement. If the branch statement equals, if the widget reference equals back button, then we want to do P1 back. I of course don't have this yet, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be using that. Now for this stuff here, if it's mostly the same, our bindings, length, -1 being the last index. If our array is, if we get our array and the widget reference equals set array, then we create the control mapping pop-up widget and add it to viewport. You may want to change the Z order depending on how your widget is designed as. And particularly, widgets have something called a Z order. If we move it further back, then it will be within that part. If we set to something like 0 or 1 or 2, then it will go forward. If we set back into a negative value, it sets it back in the background. A little bit easy enough in my own case. So with that being said, let's get into the gameplay part. We go into archives where our settings are, and then controls. We got our stuff right here. Press this, then we can change all of our stuff right here. We can change it to literally any key that we want around. At least as far as any keys can go. Man, I'm feeling a little exhausted, but I think I'm able to get this out. I think I can handle all this. Of course, saving the control values is not exactly good. And with that, that pretty much covers the fighting game framework side of things for this Funlog Friday / Showcase Saturday. Now, since we didn't do a Path of Yao update last week, I'm going to go into here right now and show you a bit of what I've done. Most of the stuff is purely the cosmetics. Going downward in, we of course have all of this little not so great art that I've made, and even a little hammock that I made for the first level. And then, of course, we've got the opening and closing cutscenes. Now, I don't want to play through the whole thing so you can see the ending cutscene, but right now, here we can see the logo art / other stuff, and of course the main menu art. And if we do play, then we have an opening cutscene with a nice little haiku at the bottom. Now, for those that are wondering if this game is almost complete, I'd like to say that it mostly is. Yeah, I'm gonna say it right now. This game is almost done. I just need to get at least someone to have a Windows packaged game port for this project ready, or at the very least I myself figure out how to package the project so I can send it off onto Mac and in particular Windows platforms. Even though the supported platforms that I can use involve Windows, I'd have to change things around. With that being said, that's pretty much it for the updates. This past week has definitely been me adapting to the whole deal of college life. So hopefully people understand that I'm going through quite a deal of change right now. I hope you guys understand about that. With that being said, I've been Herogon, you've been you, and I look forward to catching up with you guys next time. Goodbye.